Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you're new to the podcast, check out my interview with Mike Michalowicz. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. On the Profit Answer Man, we learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo-jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rearview mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this, and it's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school, and accountants aren't taught how to be profitable. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more, so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. The stronger you are as a business owner, the more jobs you create, the better we are as a country. Small business owners are the backbone of America, and for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. I love free marketing and SEO tips. LinkedIn is a great sales platform that can be used for free when done properly. It's also a great recruiting tool when used appropriately. So often we spend money and get little results. And today we're going to chat about doing a little work and seeing great benefits. Remember, you don't always have to do this yourself. You can have an admin or someone else help you implement many of the tactics that we are going to talk about. Our guest today is Daniel Alfon, who is the author of Build a LinkedIn Profile for Business Success. Daniel joined LinkedIn in early 2004 and publishes articles and exclusive content about advanced LinkedIn strategies to clients and subscribers at his website, danielalfon.com. Let's meet our guest. The Profit Answer Man, Daniel Alfon. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you very much, Rocky. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Sure. I'm based in Israel, south of Tel Aviv, and I've joined LinkedIn in early 2004. I published a book a decade later called Build a LinkedIn Profile for Business Success, and I help SMB owners and entrepreneurs leverage LinkedIn better.
And I know when we chatted before, you said that LinkedIn is misunderstood by most people. What is it that they don't understand?
I would say that most LinkedIn users focus on the company page where they need to focus on their own profile. Many SMB owners focus on quantity where they should focus on the quality of their network. A lot of SMB owners build their LinkedIn profile as a CV instead of build it as a website. And many people think about advertising first, whereas content should be first. And lastly, paying for a premium account or paying LinkedIn should not be the first step. We should spend some time familiarizing ourselves with LinkedIn and the power of LinkedIn before we go spend any financial premium accounts.
And it's true. Most people do think of LinkedIn as their resume. And I learned very early on that LinkedIn is done properly is a sales page. And so you need to be short, sweet. People need to look at your profile, know what you do and what you offer. And then this way they can make an immediate decision. Is this a service or a person that I'm going to need today or in the future? And it makes it so much easier.
You're absolutely right. When you look at your profile, we see from the banner, from the headline, we know what you offer. And I'm afraid many business owners and many SMB owners got it the other way around, that they think that LinkedIn, they need to serve LinkedIn, whereas actually LinkedIn should serve them.
And that is very, very true. I learned a lot of those lessons early. And so I've done my best to truly to work on that profile and make it stand out. And according to LinkedIn, it does. So one of the things, though, I think, and this is what you mentioned, that small business owners fail to align their objectives, and here profit comes first. Our objective is always to be profitable with their LinkedIn presence. What does that mean?
I think what it means is that LinkedIn is not an advertising system. It's a systematic referral system. Just like Profit First is not an accounting system, it's a cash flow management system. So when you think of it, many business owners are focusing their attention on exposure and what's the best way to gain the algorithm, where the strongest thing that the LinkedIn profile could bring you is referrals.
And that's a very different mindset in how to look at it and the way that you build it. And it probably changes the way that you would look at how that is built. So when we talk about referrals, are you looking to build relationships with people who can refer you business? Is that what you meant by that?
Well, let's discuss the connection strategy, in fact. I found that in the many years I help entrepreneurs use LinkedIn, maybe 80% of those people do not manage their connections or the network at all. And maybe 50% manage it the wrong way. Just like the financial aspects of their business. We need to have a connection strategy. It doesn't make sense that we let other people decide for us. And we get an incoming invitation and we check the person out and then we accept. But it doesn't make sense in the long run. If those are the kind of people we need to connect with, then we shouldn't wait for them to invite us. That's something we need to do all the way. And going back to the question, a strong referral means that if someone asks a friend of theirs about cash flow problems and consultants that could help them improve their cash flow, and they just mention your name, then by checking you out on LinkedIn, the would-be prospect could either directly go to your website and order effortless cash flow course, or ask the friend to make an introduction and become a client of yours. And that means that you're connecting with people you know well. Because if someone is connected with you and anyone asks them about Rocky and that person doesn't know what to say, then we're less likely to have a profit.
And that makes a lot of sense. And the thing that people don't realize is LinkedIn is very highly ranked in Google search results. So by doing a good job on LinkedIn, you're also improving your SEO and making yourself more findable from that standpoint as well. So that's another important part. And so far, everything that we've talked about essentially costs nothing, which is what I like. So you said 50% of people don't manage their LinkedIn profile. You mean they have somebody who's doing it for them?
I was referring to their LinkedIn connections, actually. So what I meant was that they were reacting and they were not leading. Mm. In other words, you can decide that you have a quality network, and that basically means connecting with people you know well. Other business owners could say, I want to go for the quantity. But many people end up in between. They start with quality, they want to go all the way to the quantity, but they never reach actual quantity. So they're stuck because they're not able to leverage their network on the one hand, and they don't give They don't get enough exposure on the other.
And that makes total sense. And I have found LinkedIn does a better job of showing my friends my work than Facebook does. Seems on Facebook, everything disappears. It seems that LinkedIn is a little bit better than that. And I think the other thing is people don't realize you can still have a little fun on LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be perfect, 100% all business. So one of the things that we talked about is what are 5 ways to market on LinkedIn without spending $1? Because I really like free advertising.
Cool. So the 5 ways we can use LinkedIn are active referrals, connect and nurture, content attraction, events, and posts. Okay, the acronym would be ACCEPT, A-C-C-E, paid advertising in T. By active referrals, I mean connecting with people you know well, and then running an advanced search on LinkedIn, finding a number of promising prospects, and asking your mutual connection to ask a question of that prospect. That is probably the strongest way to get referrals. And I found that referrals are likelier to stay with you. They're less price sensitive, and they tend to refer people themselves. So if we manage to have more referrals coming to our business, anyone who has worked with you would be able to answer questions about the way you work. And that's actually the first method. The second method, which is very widespread, is connect and nurture. Use all sorts of automated systems to basically run to all sorts of profiles, hit connect, and then either going directly for the sale or having one step like sending you some information or some PDF or some white paper and then asking for the sale itself. It violates LinkedIn's terms and conditions, and it only works. It doesn't really work because you have to send thousands of connection requests, and you haven't visited those people's profile at all. And you don't like being sold to, and most people don't like being sold to. So connecting and immediately going for, I have a discount for you. I don't know what is it you do, but we have excellent stuff for you, is not a good way to gain clients on LinkedIn. And that's unfortunately very widespread.
And I think that's the biggest complaint people have. It's the constant conversation we're having. It's like, you haven't even met me and you're already asking for business. It's like, it's kind of like the dating process. Don't ask for me to marry you when we've never met. And yet too often that is what happens. People just I ignore all of that now. And I know LinkedIn is doing their best to lock that down as well and preventing people from sending out too much stuff. And people should know if they do it too much, LinkedIn will kick you out and bar you. So be careful what you do. They are much more about that than Facebook would be.
You're absolutely right. If a number of LinkedIn users flag your invitations, then your account will be restricted. Okay, that means you will no longer be able to send an invitation without having that person's email. Okay, so we should really slow down and think about what we do on LinkedIn. We can have, with 400 happy connections, we can get more profits and more revenues than 4,000 people or 40,000 people saying Rocky who. 400 people say Rocky Alvani because he could help you with your cash flow issues, could bring you a lot stronger business, a lot higher profit, and happier customers than people who don't know what you do. So we covered the active referrals, and we mentioned the connect and nurture. There are 3 other ways. One is the content attraction. If and SMB owners can produce a lot of content, not for the sake of LinkedIn. Say, okay, someone who's a video producer or someone who has a lot of content on their website. Then content in the long term is the strongest marketing fuel we can use on LinkedIn. Not salesy content, informational content. When you guide your customer or your prospect with the first steps, and you tell them that there's a lot more to that, and I could help you go from B to C, but I can help you with the baby steps to learn what to do with A. So if you have or can produce high quality content, that is a strong, appealing magnet for people who are not necessarily connected with you to discover your content and go to your website or convert and become customers. The fourth way to leverage LinkedIn is through events. Okay, it could be, pre-COVID it was trade shows and exhibitions and fairs, and now it would be Zooms or even LinkedIn events. But if we work ahead of the event itself, the company or an SMB owners who knows they're going to attend an event in 2 months' time, and they have access to the list of exhibitors or attendees, then reaching out to some people ahead of time, like 4 to 6 weeks before the event, could mean that we will have meaningful conversations during the event itself because we reached out to them before and we explained and we asked a couple of questions and we leveraged the event itself. The event both of us are actually attending, be it via Zoom or a virtual platform or physically in Vegas or wherever. The last free way to gain clients is when you manage to post things that are so emotional or funny or interesting that your viewers are compelled to react. It takes a lot of effort to write something that many people will feel they have to like it, they have to comment about it, they have to share it, they have to show it to everyone because what you've done here was amazing. And that could mean that you'll have thousands of likes and shares and comments, extending the reach of that post way beyond your network. Okay, even if you have 30,000 connections, if you manage to write such posts, then you could have tens of thousands of views and comments and likes. It's rare, but it could happen.
And so I do that twice a week. I do a short video. It's called The Road Less Stupid, right? And it's business advice. It's, how do we not make the stupid mistakes we constantly make in business? And it's usually like 2 minutes. So it's short and sweet, and we just share some ideas, and it's fun to do. And, people kind of like the title, and it's informative. So it's always fun to be able to do that. And I think people think creating content takes a lot of time, and it doesn't. I do video content. It literally takes me about 5 minutes to do a 2-minute video. It's pretty simple and easy. If I were a writer, I'd probably do more written content and creating articles. And LinkedIn is also a learning platform. They do have courses and other things. One of these days, I will spend more time to do that at some point and probably create more content for LinkedIn. But it's always nice to have a platform that's got, I don't know how many millions of people are on there, but it's always great to be able to reach them in a way that that works well. It's funny because you said if you don't have a good LinkedIn profile, you should delete it. Why did you say that?
Because you don't have to have a LinkedIn profile. In other words, if you're not going to maintain it, and if you don't ask yourself every 6 months, who am I serving, and what would I like people visiting my profile to think about what I do, then you can probably delete it, and it's best because you can um, build a strong customer-facing profile, like you have done, and it's the best. You can also not be on LinkedIn, and you'll live. Okay, there are 800 million people on LinkedIn, but you'll live. The worst thing to do, in my opinion, is to set up an account and forget about it for years. Because, like you said, any listeners who would Google their name would find, in many cases, that their LinkedIn profile would be one of the very top results, even if they haven't accessed it for years. So either lead and maintain it and make it up to date, or don't try, because in the middle you're likely to pay a price.
And that makes a lot of sense. I don't know how often people Google themselves, but you should Google yourself to see what pops up. And if you don't like what you see, then it's time to fix it. I know for me, one of the things I found that sometimes my clients aren't on LinkedIn, because I was originally told, okay, you're doing B2B, be on LinkedIn. But I realized that a lot of my clients weren't there. And part of the reason was, I think a lot of small business owners are head down in their business and they're not looking around. They're too busy to think about some of this stuff. But at the same point, when I was coaching some other business owners, I'm like, if you want to make connections within companies, LinkedIn is a free directory of, hey, I'm looking for the purchasing manager at this company. LinkedIn's going to tell you who they are. And if you're smart enough to make those connections over time, right? You don't just email them and say, bye for me. You email them and maybe share an article or just say, hey, love to connect. It is a long-term, slow relationship building platform, but you've got to put the effort into it. And I tell people, because I asked you that question before, if you don't have the time, there are a lot of people who have someone else manage their LinkedIn profile for them.
Yes, high caliber executives do, but some of the decisions should be still yours. Like who to connect with is basically your decision to make. Then you work with a virtual assistant, you work with a PA, and they know you very well, then at one point you could delegate that. And you can certainly delegate some of the sharing, okay? If you say, you take 5 minutes, you have the 2-minute video before the episode, then you could certainly have someone else post that video for you. Okay, the first time you'll guide them, the second time you'll see that they work okay, and then you can for repetitive tasks that are limited, and you can check them out and you can delete it, then there's no harm in doing it. But the business owner should call the shots. You need to decide what it is, what actions would you be able to delegate, and what is the core that you need to handle yourself.
And you've kind of talked about systematizing this to a certain extent. So how do we do that?
Okay. I know you love systems. So I'm going to try and make a couple of suggestions. Let's ask 3 questions, okay? Who is our ideal reader? What action would you like that person to perform after visiting their profile? And are we helping them enough so that action is going to happen? And many business owners would stop and say, hey, if I were looking at my profile, then there's no chance I would actually convert because some information there is missing. And one takeaway is that your profile should speak for itself. You will not be there to say, you know what, it says profit answer man, but actually I'm doing something else. Or there's A, but actually I need you to know B. And as a matter of fact, your connections should also speak for themselves. Because if I notice that we have we have 2 mutual connections. One is a customer who helped a lot and he's provided a testimonial. And the second is someone you don't really know. Then you'll not be able to tell me, Daniel, ask the first guy. Don't ask the second guy. I'm there to make the decision, and there's no hierarchy. So I may end up asking someone who will say, you know what, Rocky probably sent me an invitation, but I don't really know him. And if we go back to the principles in your podcast, then we need more profits and not more exposures. We need more referrals and not more connections. I like it when you said there's the sanity metric and there's the vanity metric. Profit is the sanity and sales is the vanity. And another thing about it is that connecting with someone gives us dopamine. It's a fast loop system. And actually being in touch with people without asking for anything is a much slower feedback system, and a lot of business owners fail to do it. So if we try to think of your operating network, I would say that every LinkedIn user has a number of LinkedIn connections. If we deduct the exposure or people we may know, then we end up having the operational network. The operational network are people who can vouch for you. The operational network are people who can refer people to you, or at least when asked, they will be able to say something meaningful about you. Even, you know what, I haven't spoken in Rocky for 2 years, but I know he's able to do A and B and C. That also works.
And so people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And part of the reason that I post a lot on LinkedIn and I communicate people with them there is because, let's face it, 6 months from now, people forget what you do. But if they keep seeing your content, they keep seeing you out there, they remember. And then this way, 6 months and 2 weeks from now, when somebody asks them a question, they're like, oh yeah, I just saw him a week or two ago on LinkedIn. He's the guy. Here's the recommendation. And it makes it much, much easier.
Absolutely right. And the content we share should also look at the future we're trying to create. In other words, if you pivot, or if an SMB owner pivots and offers something else, then their LinkedIn presence should reflect that. Otherwise, it becomes a rear view mirror of their record. Just like accountants may provide a rear view image of our business, but what you teach is profit first. And that's also something LinkedIn users don't often remember. It's the fact that the content they share and their whole LinkedIn strategy should be looking ahead. What is it that I want to create for my business in the next quarter? And am I doing the right actions that will help the prospect I try to educate reach out to me and say, hey, let's have a chat?
And by the way, the one thing I've noticed, and we've talked about this a lot, just in some of the groups that I'm in, just because people aren't liking and comment on your posts doesn't mean they're not watching. There are so many stealth watchers out there that literally 6 months later show up on your calendar and say, hey, I want to do business. And you're like, I've never even seen you, having conversations with me on LinkedIn. But yet that happens all the time. So you got to keep showing up and doing.
You're right. There's, we can imagine a triangle with 1%, 9%, and 90%. 90% are just watchers or stealth watchers, like you said, or lurkers. And only up to 9% will actually comment or do something about it. And just 1% is going to make a public action, like sharing it or saying, I liked this episode with Jeff. Listen to it because you're going to learn A, B, or C.
So true. Is there anything that we should have talked about with regards to LinkedIn that we didn't get to?
I think we covered the things I had in mind. But if there's any follow-up question that you have, then I'm all ears.
No, I think we covered pretty much everything that we had chatted about. If people would like help and would like to connect with you and get help, what is the best way for them to do that?
The best way is to go to my profile. That's danielalfon.com. And there's a freebie there, giveaway about improving their headline and articles that they could read, and all sorts of guides and programs in the store. The results my clients see are profits and revenues, not likes, LinkedIn views, and connections.
And that is the most important thing. And we did forget one thing. When you put your picture, first of all, you should have your picture on LinkedIn because people want to know what you look like, and make sure it's a nice smiling one.
You're right. And anyone without a profile photo is likely to get up to 24 less profile views than people with images. Because when we look at someone up and we don't see a profile photo, we assume it's not up to date. So do it today if you haven't, and make sure your photo is visible, because some users' profile is only visible to their network. In general, what's important is not what you see on your profile, it's what someone else sees. So even ask someone to go to show you your LinkedIn profile, ideally someone you're not connected with, and sometimes you're amazed and say, hey, but I have the photo, why don't you see it? And then you'll be able to change it. The same goes for the email address. Everyone sees their email address and the contact info, but in 90% of the case, anyone who's not connected with you will not be able to see an email address.
And you need to they can connect through LinkedIn, so it's not so bad, but
it's your call. If you decide that you don't want to have that email address, but if you want to, then know that it is invisible.
You need to make it visible. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I think we've helped people to figure out how to market on LinkedIn, which has got millions upon millions of users, and we don't even have to spend $1. Just put in some time.
That's right. Thank you very much for having me today.
What free marketing ideas did you learn today that you can implement in your business? Is it time to update your LinkedIn profile? Sometimes it's easier to have someone else do this for you. But before spending money, make sure you have a plan and a purpose for what you're looking to accomplish. LinkedIn ranks high for SEO. And if you can get your employees to share and like your content, it's even better. Take a moment to think through how LinkedIn might be able to benefit your relationships, build trust with your clients, and maybe get you some potential new clients. Remember, you don't need more resources, you need to be more resourceful. We focus on the bottom line. If you want a done-for-you service, you can have me as your Chief Profitability Officer, because you have your zone of genius and want to spend your time doing what you love. I only work with a handful of clients, so they get my full attention. I work with business owners who have or are growing to $500,000 to $5 million in revenue. You can use the scheduling link in the show notes to get on my calendar for a good fit conversation to see if I'm the right person to support you and how I can help you. If you want to learn about living the life of your dreams, check out my other podcast, Richer Soul. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.